Hello there guys, and welcome to a slightly different video that you would see on this channel. And this is going to be a actual season preview for the upcoming F1 season that begins this week in Australia. I just wanted to make this channel a little bit more informative, and I'm hoping to do a few more things like reviews and stuff of actual races that have taken place at the weekend. So I'm hoping this is going to go well. Hope you guys enjoy it. And without further ado, here is my F1 2018 season preview. Mercedes entered the new season aiming to become the first team since Ferrari in the early 2000s to win the Constructors' Championship 5 consecutive times. And with regulations being relatively stable, it's realistic to expect them to be in the team to beat once again. Defending world champion Lewis Hamilton is now looking to achieve something only 2 other drivers in history have done, and that is to win 5 Drivers' Championships. The car looks like an evolution on 2017 and looks very sleek. But one thing on the car that could have been improved was painting the halo in racing colours like most of the other teams have done, so that just doesn't stick out as much. Their strengths? They're world champions for a reason. Their engineering team behind the scenes have been excellent for the past 4 seasons. They have a very strong driver lineup. Lewis Hamilton is one of the greatest drivers to have been in the sport, and Valtteri Bottas had a solid debut season with the team. Also, their management at the top with Toto Wolff, Aldo Costa and James Allison have allowed the team to stay on top despite the drastic rule changes from 2016 to 2017. Another strength is their reliability. The team had one terminal car problem during races, with Bottas retiring in Spain, but apart from that, both drivers scored in every round. And lastly, pre-season doesn't show everything. Ferrari and Red Bull may have shown excellent pace in the final pre-season tests, but Mercedes were mainly focusing on long runs and have a tendency to hide their true pace until it really counts. So I'm waiting until Australia before judging how close those 2 teams are. Some potential questions and weaknesses. Is this dominance in the hybrid era starting to end? When you're at the top of the standings for a while, the quest to stay there becomes increasingly challenging. 2016 saw Mercedes win 19 out of 21 races, whilst 2017 saw Ferrari and Red Bull cut that down to just 12 out of 20, their lowest win total in the hybrid era. If that trend continues, Mercedes' reign at the top of the standings may come to an end, and we'll be seeing more of Toto Wolff slamming his fist on the desk in the garage. Secondly, can Valtteri Bottas be a title contender? It was a decent start to his career at Mercedes, where the Finn achieved his first objective of winning his first ever Grand Prix, after immense pressure from Sebastian Vettel in Russia. He repeated this feat in Austria and also in the final race in Abu Dhabi, but for most of the season he was second best to Hamilton and also outperformed by Vettel on most occasions. Now with a full season at Mercedes under his belt, can he make that next step forward and become a challenge to Hamilton on a regular basis and be in that championship fight? ', 2017 was a massive turnaround for Ferrari after a very disappointing 2016 campaign, with the team picking up 5 wins for the first time since 2010. They were a real challenge to Mercedes in the first half of 2017, with Sebastian Vettel leading the championship after picking up 4 race wins. However, the wheels completely fell off the wagon due to a combination of bad luck, driver error, and reliability costing them dearly in 3 consecutive races. Vettel will look to bounce back from a difficult end to his title chances, whilst teammate Kimi Räikkönen will look to challenge and back up his teammate when required. Based off this year's car design, they've gone for a very aggressive approach to those side pod designs, so it'll be interesting to see how the car handles on 1 lap pace, but also when following another car in traffic. Their big strengths are that they had a good pre-season test on paper. They set the unofficial lap records around the test track in Barcelona on the final few days of testing, and didn't appear to suffer any reliability issues. There have been rumours that they are behind on race pace, but people said that before Australia last season, and they ended up winning that race at the start of 2017. Another major strength is Sebastian Vettel. When Seb is fully focused, he's on Hamilton's level. He's a 4-time world champion for a reason. Sure, people say he's not as racy as Hamilton, and he likes dominating from the front, but look at some of the overtakes and the comebacks he made last season. That demonstrates to me he's a racer, and I hope for more this season. In terms of questions and weaknesses for the team, as I mentioned earlier, Ferrari's reliability was one of the team's letdowns in the second half of 2017. We need to ensure that this has been rectified for this year, as it's now 3 sets of engine components that must last for the season. They don't want extra penalties to hamper any championship ambitions. Another potential weakness is Vettel's temper. I mentioned earlier that when he's focused, he's on Hamilton's level. However, one weakness he does have is his tendency to do the wrong thing in the heat of the moment. A big example of that was his last season in Baku, where he drove into his championship rival after the German felt Hamilton had brake tested him. He'll need to keep this calm throughout the season if he wants to beat Hamilton this time around. And lastly, who will replace Kimi Raikkonen? The Iceman has done very well to continue his second stint at the Italian team, so much so that his second stint is now almost double the length of his first stint when he won his championship. However, as much as I like Kimi, he is 39 in October, and the team may look to upcoming talent for 2019. Red Bull showed a lot of promise in the second half of last season after being the clear third best team for the majority of the first half. They will hope that their final year with Renault power will be a good send-off to the French engine supplier and allow them to get back to the front of the grid following the 3 wins they obtained last season. Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen want to be championship contenders, and judging by the pre-season times, they may be within striking distance of Mercedes, and at the moment, they're closest challengers. Speaking of Ricciardo and Verstappen, that's one of their main strengths of the Red Bull team at the moment. Both are extremely talented racers and are also proven race runners. Their daring overtakes have been some of the highlights of the past couple of seasons, and long may it continue in 2018, and who knows, we may end up having a nice little scrap between the two of them, like we did at the Malaysian Grand Prix in 2016. The second major strength is their car development. The engineering team is excellent in being able to develop their car to maximise its full potential, and that has proven valuable in many of the circuits on the calendar, despite the power deficit they have had compared to the top 2 teams. Speaking of the power deficit, that leads on to my questions about them, the first being their reliability. Both Ricciardo and Verstappen suffered from reliability issues throughout 2017, costing them valuable points. They'll hope Renault have improved this to give Red Bull a real chance of cracking the top 2 again. The second potential question is Verstappen's racecraft. Verstappen is a very talented driver, and I would definitely say he's a world champion in the future, and he's pulled off some unbelievable drives and overtakes in his very young career. However, on occasions he has been a bit rash and naive, which has resulted in damage to his and other drivers' races, e.g. Hungary last season. Ricciardo may not have the measure of him on natural talent, but the Honey Badger knows when to pick his battles and doesn't go for an all-in high-risk manoeuvre on the first lap of a 60-plus lap race. So I'm hoping Max can learn from that this season. Force India continued to exceed expectations as the leading independent team, finishing 4th in the Constructors' Championship for the second straight season. They also exceeded their points record again, like in 2016, despite not scoring any podiums. The pre-season was fairly quiet, with the team not setting spectacular lap times, but the team planned to bring immediate upgrades to the first race in Australia, so both Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon will hope to be at least in the fight for the top 10 in qualifying. Their strengths: they're the best value for money team on the grid. The way in which this team has moved up the grid the past few seasons has been quite remarkable, despite the budget they've had compared with the factory teams. On paper, this is probably the highest they could realistically finish, but they will definitely take advantage of any slip-ups from the big 3. If there was a cost cap rule in place, this team would be in with a real chance of being in the championship fight every season. Secondly, they've got a very consistent driver lineup. They've uncovered an excellent talent in Esteban Ocon, who broke Max Chilton's record of longest streak of race finishes from the start of his F1 career until it was ended with his first retirement in the second last race of last season in Brazil. Whilst Perez is very consistent for the majority of the season and has been a great asset to the team, despite his ego at times getting in the way of the team's best interests. And speaking of his ego, this is related to one of my questions about the team, can they keep both drivers in check? There were several instances between both these drivers throughout 2017, and as a result the team had to prevent them from racing for the rest of the season. Hopefully, if they've lifted this ban, they've learnt from this and they can look out for the best interests of the team. Which then leads on to my next question. Can they continue to punch above their weight? With teams like McLaren and Renault expecting to be improved this coming season, and with bigger budgets, it may be a challenge for the Silverstone-based team to hold on to 4th place for a 3rd straight season. So they'll need to rely on strong reliability, solid car development, and both drivers pushing consistently throughout the season. 2018 marks the end of an era for Williams, with Felipe Massa retiring as a driver for the second time. There was a debate as to who would partner Lance Stroll for 2018, with drivers like Paul di Resta, Pascal Wehrlein, and even Robert Kubica competing for the seat. In the end, the team went for a rookie and former reserve driver Sergei Sirotkin, which appears to be more for the finances the Russian brings in, whilst Kubica was signed as a test and reserve driver. The main strength this team has is that this is the first designed car with Paddy Lowe's input. With Paddy Lowe moving over in early 2017, he didn't really have much input into the 2017 car design, whereas now he's had a full season with the team to help with this year's car. As a result, the car looks like a Ferrari-Mercedes hybrid in terms of design, which could help resolve some of the aerodynamic issues that the team has struggled with in the last few seasons. However, this team comes with two main weaknesses, the first being the lack of experience in the driver lineup. This may mean that the feedback they provide the race engineers may not be as informative compared to a more experienced driver, and that is crucial when it comes to car development. Sure, Stroll got better as 2017 progressed, and also got the team's surprise podium in Baku, but he's only 19 and isn't on the talent level of Verstappen, whilst it's unknown to me whether Sorokin was the right decision as a second driver. The second weakness is, could they slide down the standings? Williams' big advantage in the hybrid era has been their engine partnership with Mercedes, and it was the main reason for their return to regular podium finishes in 2014 and in 2015. However, since then, the other teams have caught them up power-wise, exposing Williams' lack of aerodynamic performance, which is one of the reasons why they were near the bottom of the standings at the end of the V8 era. So we could be seeing them drop further down the standings if the likes of Renault, Haas and McLaren have made good progress. This, combined with an uncertain pre-season, could be a very difficult year for the team. Renault's second season back in F1 as a works team was a massive improvement on its first. Nico Hülkenberg proved to be an excellent signing for the team, scoring the majority of the points, including 4 sixth-place finishes. In addition, the team made the unsurprising decision to drop Jolyon Palmer in favour of Spaniard Carlos Sainz, who showed what he could do on his debut for the team in the USA last season with a 7th-place finish. Pre-season has been very positive for the French team, and they could be the leading midfield team at the first race in Australia. Their big strength is that it's a strong driver lineup. Barring his rookie season, Hülkenberg has been an excellent asset to any team he's driven for, while Sainz isn't given the full credit he deserves, since his rookie and second season was overshadowed by his Toro Rosso teammate Verstappen arriving at the same time. He showed what he could do in 2017 with an excellent 4th place finish for Toro Rosso in tricky conditions in Singapore, and will want to help Renault to continue their improvement and progress towards the front of the grid. In terms of potential weaknesses and questions, well, reliability may become a factor for this team. There's been rumours around the pre-season test that they've not got the best reliability compared to the Ferraris and the Mercedes powered teams. And like their customer team Red Bull, Renault suffered from reliability issues throughout 2017. Although the majority seem to happen to Palmer, who no longer drives for the team. They hope that his cursed car doesn't get passed on to either driver this season. Secondly, can they make that next step forward? Hülkenberg is still aiming for his first podium finish, while Sainz wants to show that his 4th place in Singapore last season was no fluke. Achieving those objectives may not be possible unless they get a stroke of luck in one race, with weather or retirements from the big 3 teams, so they'll probably have to settle for the best of the rest after Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull for the majority of this season. "2018 is an interesting year for Toro Rosso. Following McLaren's decision to split with Honda and sign up to Renault Power, the team made the interesting decision of picking up the Japanese power for 2018. It's a gamble considering Honda's performance at McLaren in the last 3 seasons, and both drivers Pierre Gasly and Brendan Hartley will hope it pays off. The Red Bull Junior team's performance could provide some good data to the main Red Bull team as they search for an engine supply from 2019 onwards. The big strength that the team has had this so far, they had an excellent and quite surprising pre-season. Toro Rosso accumulated the 3rd most laps in testing, only beaten by Mercedes and Ferrari, and there were no major breakdowns to talk about. Apparently, the team used 3 engines throughout the first pre-season test, but apparently this was down to just choice and not because of component faults, so that is a positive sign. And speaking of that, this leads on to my questions, and the first one is related to Honda's performance. It's good to hear that Honda have made steps forward on the reliability front, but if they don't have the power, it could be a long season for Toro Rosso, and they may struggle to keep up with the midfield group. The team doesn't have the budget that McLaren has to work on car development to compensate for the lack of power that Honda could end up providing. The second question is related to both drivers, and if Honda's performance is good, can both drivers score points consistently? I rate both Pierre Gasly and Brendan Hartley, but neither of them were able to score points when they came in at the back end of 2017, when former driver Kvyat was able to do so in the USA prior to his departure. So they'll need to step up now that they've had a few Grand Prix and a full pre-season testing program under their belts. France TOS does have a ruthless streak when it comes to drivers, and with a backlog of drivers in the Red Bull Driver Academy, good performances will be crucial for both drivers to stay within the team. Haas had a strong opening to their second season in F1. They halted car development in the second half, which hit results and saw the American team drop to 8th in the Constructors, from the position they finished their debut season in. There have been rumours that owner Gene Haas may even quit the sport if they don't show significant returns on his investment. They seem to have gone quietly about their business in the winter and pre-season. It could spring a surprise for 2018, so perhaps the decision to stop development in 2017 to focus on this year will pay off. The big strengths: pre-season was a surprising success. The team showed pretty quick lap times on one-lap pace, and also both Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen were able to lap consistently, so it'll be interesting to see if they are the fastest independent team in Australia. Even world champion Lewis Hamilton has noticed this and believes they will bring a surprise this season. The big question though is that can they continue their car development? This has been their weakness for the team in the first two seasons, with 2017 being slightly better due to a slight increase in their points tally. If this is the case again though, they'll need to accumulate enough points to allow them to stay in front of the bigger teams in the championship standings. The other question is related to Magnussen's racecraft. K-Mag is a solid driver, but tends to overstep the mark when it comes to his defending of positions, with both Hulkenberg and Alonso being the most notable people to let the world know of this. This is not the first time he's done this, as he was accused of dirty defensive driving during his rookie season at McLaren. He will hope to rectify this in 2018, otherwise Gunther Steiner may look to someone like Charles Leclerc or Antonio Giovinazzi in the Ferrari Young Driver program for the future. After 3 seasons of struggle, McLaren finally pulled the plug on the experiment with Honda and switched to Renault power for 2018. As a result, they were able to keep Fernando Alonso around the team for the time being to partner Stoffel Van Dorn again. However, it's been another troublesome pre-season for the Woking-based team, which leaves them on the back foot to start the season. Their strength is on paper an improved engine. Based off the season statistics of the hybrid era, Renault power should allow McLaren to stick with other cars down the straights better than what Honda are able to do. So hopefully that we'll be able to see that combined with their chassis and aero package that the team has claimed is in the top 5 at least on the grid, working well together. Secondly, it's still a pretty strong driver lineup. Alonso is another world-class talent on the grid and has dragged a poor car up the field the past 2 seasons. Whilst Van Dorn had an okay rookie season, but is still a 2015 GP2 champion, and he contributed 13 points to the 30-point tally that the team scored in 2017. He wants to continue his development in F1 and continue to make improvements this season. Their weaknesses? As I mentioned earlier, it's been a poor pre-season. Like 2017, McLaren had a disaster with many problems affecting the car, both from an engine and also a chassis perspective. This will give many of the McLaren fans disappointment after they expected so much now that the Honda partnership has ended. Secondly, it's a new engine relationship. With the switch to new power, McLaren have to develop another new partnership with a different engine supplier, and there could have been teething problems such as having to compromise or adapt their car design to incorporate the Renault power, as they had been used to the Honda design specs the last few seasons. Thirdly, there's still no main title sponsor. McLaren have yet to have a main title sponsor since Vodafone in 2013. That's now 5 seasons ago, and it's costing the team potential funding to help build a championship winning car. All of the major rivals that they want to be fighting all have a major sponsor, so they'll need to find one soon if they want to compete with them financially. And lastly, can they keep Alonso happy? Fernando is competing in the World Endurance Championships alongside his F1 commitments this season. And if the car is still languishing and struggling to be competitive, he will let the team and viewers know. The Spaniard considered quitting the sport last season, and that is also a possibility if it's another poor season, and he may just decide to focus on his other ventures such as trying to win Le Mans in the WEC. Last but not least is Sauber, who saw some big changes in the off-season with the announcement of their partnership with Italian car company Alfa Romeo. In addition, they signed Formula 2 champion and Ferrari Academy driver Charles Leclerc to replace Pascal Wehrlein as part of their long-term plan to return to competitiveness. Their strengths? They have an updated Ferrari engine this season. The team had to use a 2016 Ferrari engine last season, and the lack of power really showed towards the end of the season, with the team dropping to around 4 seconds a lap slower than the main competitors. They initially were going to switch to Honda power for 2018, however they renegotiated with Ferrari to use the latest power units, so that should reduce the deficit they have a little bit. Secondly, the Alfa Romeo partnership will provide some much needed funding to the team, as it's also a major sponsor that will be on the car, so hopefully that will allow them to develop their car a lot better. And lastly, Leclerc is a talent. He dominated the Formula 2 season last year, finishing 72 points clear of his nearest rival, and he makes history by becoming the first Monegasque driver to... Their weaknesses? Marcus Ericsson is still an F1 driver. The only reason why the Swede is still an F1 is because of his sponsors financially backing the team. Any other team would have let him go considering that he's failed to score a single point in the past 2 seasons, whilst his teammate the last 2 seasons has been responsible for all the points the Sauber have obtained. If the team had gone for a full talent-related lineup, Pascal Wehrlein would have stayed in the team, and it would have been Ericsson that would have been replaced by Leclerc. Secondly, based off the pre-season test, the car seems like it's a handful. It's an innovative design that the team has gone for compared to the rest of the field, especially with that front wing, so it may be tricky to gather data to help improve performance. It also didn't help that both Leclerc and Ericsson had a couple of crashes during pre-season testing that affected their running time. And finally, they're probably still going to be last in the championship standings. Alfa Romeo's partnership was only announced towards the end of 2017, so there may not be enough time for the funding to flow into developing this year's car. They're probably aiming towards big gains later on in the season and in 2019. So based off what I've discussed, this is how I see the teams in terms of performance. So I have Red Bull currently as the closest challengers to Mercedes, whilst Renault are the leading midfield team. I have Williams in front of Toro Rosso at the moment, mainly because I'm not 100% sure on what sort of power output Toro Rosso will have compared to the Mercedes-powered Williams. That could definitely change once we see what happens in Australia. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little preview that we've done. Let me know what your rankings are when it comes to the team performances, and I'll see you all for the first race roundup / review for the Australian Grand Prix after the race on Sunday. So until then, see you later.